Such cute kids. I wish you could do it all over again. Yeah, must have fell on the floor. Or threw it on the floor. Oh yeah, I think she'd like some cake. Here's her old TV, and he'd get up at that and he'd start playing with them buttons, and he'd hit the volume one. He'd always point his finger. Well, look at the camera. Then he'd turn it way up, the volume real loud, and he'd get scared. There's that finger pointing. There's Susie with the Play-Doh. When Joan was in the hospital having Patrick, I had a little breakfast built in. We had another fire truck. Little patty cake here. Patty cake, David. So big. Patty cake, so big. That was a nice big house with a bear to heat. I think it had 33 windows and 3 storm doors. There we are in the breakfast nook with the Play-Doh. And you got so that, and there comes David around the corner from the dining room into the kitchen. That's the cable for the lights. That's why they squint. We had these heavy lights, or big lights for doing the camera. That was Glenn with some kind of a bruise on his right cheek. Maybe he'll recall what that is. I don't recall how he got it. Giving him a cracker, I think. No, paste paper. There's Chuck and Susie playing with Play-Doh. That's the nook we built in when Joan was pregnant in the hospital with David. Had my cousin's husband, Don Tesber, come and put that in for us to surprise Joan.
Yeah, right.
And that table folded up so you could clean underneath it.
I like when you're going to be doing this and just enjoy it and have fun.
That's it.
Okay.
Stop the recording.
Absolutely.
You just describe what's going on.
Hold this for a minute so I can sit up.
Only move the chair closer to the TV for you.
No, I just want to sit up closer.
We'll sit over here.
No. Thank you. You're so
talented.
Here we are at the beach. I don't know which beach we're at.
Okay. I'll record up a storm here. Right. Well, we get it all done so we can make copies. If you guys can get through like this tape tonight, maybe another one tomorrow.
I don't know which lake we're at, but I think that Dale took Honey and the girls up to Charlie Bejan's, and they're fishing. There's Chucky, there's Glenn, and there's Susie. Looks like they're having fun. I don't know if they caught any fish. I stayed home with David and Patrick, I believe. They sure had fun up there. There's Glenn with the fish. Not a very big one, but a fish. There's Susie dancing. And there's Glenn dancing now. Having fun. Here's Darlene and Barbara, I think. And here we are looking at scenery again. I don't know if this is Charlie's cabin or not. I'll pass this over to your dad, and he can tell you more about what you're seeing. There's Glenn. There's Glenn going in the cabin. It's kind of dark, so it's hard to tell. Here, I'll give it to your dad, and he can explain where you're at.
Well, here we're up at the game farm somewhere around Spooner, Wisconsin. And we just stopped there to take a look at the deer with Honey and her kids, her daughters. And we went back, we went to St. Croix Falls. There's Darlene. There's Susie. That's Barbara. That's Chucky, I believe. Our old 56 Ford we bought brand new. Here comes Glenn. There goes Honey, and there's Nancy. Nancy Erickson Bautista. And that's Dale. There's Chucky. Always smiling. There's Bob Erickson, Honey's husband. They're working up at a North States Power substation in Spooner. And he was the foreman. I can't remember. There's Bob Kelly, North States Power. He's climbing up the ladder. I hope that you can drown off the music with this voiceover. And Bob Kelly married a girl from the office that of North States Power we used to work with. And that's Barbara, and there's Susie and Glenn. They're looking in the kind of storage building. There goes Chucky coming to check it out too. What's going on in there anyhow? Got to check this out. Chuck sucking his thumb. Susie got some important stuff in her pockets. I don't know where we are. We found a tractor. You kind of climb and sit on the seat on that. Glenn trying to figure out how you start it. I guess he had a cable or a spark wire. There we're down in St. Croix Falls. We climbed the rocks a little bit, then we got on one of those boats, ships that go up and down the river for a half hour, 45 minutes. There we're back at 4205 Colfax. Birthday party. There's Susie. There's David in the background on somebody's lap. There's Susie, and there's Mary Pat Linsmeyer. There's Nancy, little girl next door. Oh, there's Lori. That's Nancy. There's Glenn, and in the background is Chris Berg. There's Lori and Nancy and Susie and Mary Pat and Lori and Nancy. And the girl next door, I forget her name. I think, I don't know who's holding her around. That's Sandra Boline. There's Glenn in the background. That's Lori, and there's Tucky, there's Mary Pat, Susie, Nancy. There's Joan, and that's Wayne. He must have come to pick up his daughter Sandra. There's Sandra. There's Glenn and Susie. There's David, sucking the two fingers, bouncing in his Johnny jump up and blinking because the lights are so bright. Did a good job jumping. Grew to be 6'2". He's a big boy. And a good one. He was just over and showed us how to record the voice on these old movies that we had put on tapes with the music background. Now we're going to have voice on them, so that's great. There's Barbara Erickson, Espon. There's David. Barbara behind her, and there's Chucky with the red sweater. Glenn there, the red sweater. Susie's opening her things. I don't know what that is. That's Joan helping out. All the papers for David to crinkle up, like kids usually do. The lighting goes in and out. Don't know why. Some of the pictures are good, some of them are not so good. But there's David, big face. There's Darlene Erickson. Now lives in Lawton, Oklahoma. Has 2 children, Billy and that's our old girl Sandra. She lived with us for about a year. Did housework and help, and she'd had Wednesday nights and Saturdays off. Did a lot of help babysitting. Who's helping you there? That's Joey Steggy there. That Lori was her daughter. That's Joey. Still very good friends of ours. That's Lori. She's serving. Well, there's Chuck peeking around. And there's the little girl next door. Well, it looks like Helen Parr back there. I think it is. No, that's Darlene back there, next to Nancy Erickson. There's Jeannie Chartier-Berg. There's Susie doing the hula hoop. They were sure in back then. There's Jeannie. She's trying. She gets it for a while, and then she's gonna lose it. There's Grandma Chartier sitting over there with Jeanette. There's Esther Scholl Bryant. She's gonna do the hula hoop. Esther's now 80. What is she? 89? No. Born in 1913. Yeah, 88. She's 88. And still doing well. Lives by herself. There's Grandpa Chartier giving Christine Berg a sip of his beer. Christine Berg. That's Jeannie's daughter. Jeannie Chartier Berg's daughter. Christine lives in Richmond, Virginia. Got a beautiful home on Anna Lake. I'm trying to figure out if that's David there. I think so. We're at a lake someplace. There's Glenn with a life preserver on. Susie. There's Chucky without a life preserver. I think that's Joan in the background over there. Here's Susie and Chuck, and we're up at, thank you, Don Ramberg's cabin up by, right off of Highway 61. I'm trying to think of the name of the town. Moose Lake. That's Susie. And that's Chucky. That's Glenn way back there with the blue hat. And that's me. That's Dale. Digging for worms. Yeah, I gotta check this out. I think we're at Ramberg's. Chucky with an old city service T-shirt. I bought a bunch of them for 10 cents and gave them to all the neighborhood kids. They wore them for several years, so there were just holes in them. Let's see, looks like Vernal's old Johnson motor. We must have borrowed his motor. I'm guessing. This may be... Now, there's Bill Weekland, sure. We're out on Lake Minnetonka. And we'd borrowed Vernal's motor. I do believe. There's Bill Weekland. There's Dale. He looked pretty young there. I think Bill was single at the time. Or maybe just married. He said, let's go fishing. There's Glenn in his pajamas. There's Uncle Andrew up at the nursing home up in Stansfield. He had bad circulation in his legs and had one cut off, I believe. I think that's the lady who ran the place. There she is. No, there she is. Nice. She had about half a dozen. I'd stop there going up to Duluth or back from Duluth and stop and see Andrew, and once in a while stop out at the farm and see Oscar. They used to be both out there. But when he couldn't walk and lost a leg, and they put him in this nursing home. And he was pretty coherent to start with, and as he aged, the mind started, and pretty soon he didn't know who I was till I'd say, Albert Boline, then he'd know that. I'd say, Albert's son, then he would comprehend who I was. Now, this is Duluth, I guess. Don't know why we're recording that. I don't know any of these people. Oh, well, maybe we do. There's a submarine in Duluth Harbor, I believe. Looks like a cruiser. They had some kind of a festival up there, I guess, to invite people to see the ships, climb on them, and look around. Thank you. There, that's a lot of big guns on it.
Have you had supper yet? What do you think? Okay.
Bristol City Line. Well, here's a part of the film we can't see too clear. Maybe parts of it will come in. Who knows? Looks like there's a game we had of some kind. There's David walking around in his sleepers. There's Grandma Boline. You can tell by the house coat, I believe. Maybe it'll come a little clearer. There was Glenn walking by. There's Glenn. There's David. With it, we put the train tracks together. He picks it up. Looks like he's got a black eye on this one. I don't know how he fell. There's Chucky. There's that Glenn. Okay, here's Susie. I think we're down in Fort Knox, Kentucky, visiting Ron and Jean. He was a captain at that time. Susie's on a bike without any handlebars. And there's Chuck riding on the bike and Glenn getting a free ride. That's Dale. There comes Susie, Joan, Boline, Bermel. A sweetheart. And they're on looks like Chuck's on a tank. Yeah, and here Ron got him so they can all get a ride in a tank. There's Ron on the right, helping him, lifting him in. And Gordy Berg was there with his 40, his kids, and they didn't stay very long. We stayed a couple of nights. Went and saw where Lincoln was born in the house, which is encapsulated in a brick building. There they are. They're riding in that tank. Us adults would have liked it, but they didn't offer us. It was great for the kids. They had a patent museum there. Went over and saw that. Saw the car that he was driving when he was in the accident and eventually died from. Quite a museum. Glenn, Sue, and Chuck are in that tank. Here they come. I guess that was Glenn coming out. There's Chuck. We bought him soldier uniforms, so they look just like the soldiers. Here comes Susie. Here come the other kids. Is that Gordy? Here's the building that houses Lincoln's little old frame house where he was actually born in Kentucky. You go inside that door and there are little houses in there. Preserved. There are the kids. That was Betty. There's Patrick. There's little Patrick. Born in 1959, so this has got to be probably 59, late 59, because he's born April 28th, same day as our friend. There's Chucky. Bill Cundy was born on April 28th. There's Chucky, and there's David with his fingers in his mouth. Oh, hamburgers. And is this Lolly? I hope he's fishing there. Yeah, he is. Where was this, Joan? Oh, this is up at Big Fork State Park. We went up there. We had a cabin and a tent. There's Grandma Chartier, and Joan, and David in the high chair. We bought folding chairs, the tent. Here comes David. He's walking. He's a big boy. And Susie.
We were having a picnic up there. Patrick was just a little kid. There's his playpen. I think we had Pepper up there with us, too. I think Grandpa was up there, too. And Dale doesn't agree, so I'm not sure. Looks like we had nice sunny weather. This was at Big Fork?
Big Fork State Park.
Big Fork State Park. There's Patrick, but you can't tell it's him. It's too dark. There's Susie and Chucky. Here comes David. Smiling, happy. Playing around the boat.
He was tying up.
Now they're
Through the woods.
walking through the woods for a little fun walk. And Patrick's eating something. He sure was cute. And there's Glenn.
More scenery.
More scenery. We're awfully good at scenery, but no more. We're going to take people. I don't know what we're looking at that was so special. Tall tree, I guess. Big tree down in the water. Kids sure thought that was fun to walk on. There's Chuck. Susie. We must have been tenting, I guess. We had a tent and a cabin.
We got 59 Plymouth.
59 Plymouth tan car.
Fury. Push button.
Oh,
50. There's the prisoner.
those playpens were the best thing that ever invented.
They were soft. You couldn't get hurt of them.
Here.
There's Chuck trying to go out in the boat. Of course, it was tied up. We wouldn't let him go anyplace. You waving to us? And there's Joan. Trying to figure out where this is.
Must be reading the book.
We figure out this is the sands in Las Vegas, I believe. I recognize the diving board. You and I went down there in '59, just the two of us. And your mother and Jeannie stayed with the kids. Or is it, maybe it might have been 60 because it was a '59 Fury, and we didn't get it till late '59. Almost had 4,000 miles on it. Nice car. Never caused us any trouble. More scenery. A lot of spectacular scenery out in western part of the country. And you want to share it, but it never looks the same when you take it in 8mm. That's taken through the car as we're driving. I think this may be Bridal Veil Falls. It's on a bypass that goes around Salt Lake City, as I recall, somewhere in Utah. But pretty high, you can see way down into a valley. Almost looks like a view from an airplane, but it's not. More spectacular scenery. just push it off. Oh, there's Joan again. He's thirsty, I guess. Coffee she wants. There we are in a swimming pool. Yeah. Trying to figure out where we are. Are we at Collis's, or are we just at a motel? Oh, this is when we left Las Vegas. We went to see a friend of mine, Eddie Waller's, in Colby, Kansas. And their housing association had this pool. There's Eddie. He was a great athlete in Lakewood, Ohio. All conference, all everything. High football scorer, basketball player. I met him in the service, in the Navy. Great guy. We stayed at their house one night. So it's their kids, not ours. Because just Joan and I were there. Looks like more Bridal Veil Falls. I don't know how that works. How the tapes get kind of interspersed somehow. I think we called Wallers from Denver. He said, "Oh, you're only a couple hours away." Well, it was about 6 or 8 hours away before we got there. And of course, we have to have some scenery. Cut it off. Pops back on.
I think we should go through it the second time.
You can't. Hmm? It says record. That looks like Boulder Dam from the top. Often called the Hoover Dam. It creates a huge lake reservoir. It was a huge project in the 30s. Provides water and power all the way to Los Angeles, California. You can, at the time, we could go down into the dam for 10 cents per person. I think it's up to probably 50 cents or $1 now. It's called Lake Mead. Huge, huge reservoir. Created a lot of tourist boating and is that Joan swimming? That might have been me doing a 1.5. No, I wouldn't do 1.5 off the high board. I'd do it off a low board. That's somebody else. That's me. That's Dale doing a big jackknife. That's Dale doing a 1.5. Dale doing a back jack. Preserved for posterity. Oop. Little animals. This has got to be I'm not sure if this is at... I'm guessing this might be Grand Canyon. We'll see. Maybe not. Yes, it's the Grand Canyon. And of course these movies do not do it justice. It is spectacular. You just cannot imagine how nature has carved out these beautiful, beautiful valley and mountains and crags and buttes, whatever. And the changing colors every time of day is different. They're very tame little animals. They've been fed before, you can see. Looks like we're feeding them some cereal. This is the South Rim. Never been to the North Rim. It's much more difficult to drive to. Should try that someday. You get a different vista. If you've never been to the Grand Canyon, it's worth the trip. We know people who have gone down into it, taken the burro rides. We haven't, but it'd be something to do. There's Jim Conway. Jim and Hattie and Joan and Leah, we all went. He's posing for you. Took a trip out there in Jim's Oldsmobile. Thank you. Well, there we stopped because some little Indian children were posing on the side of the road. And their mother was there, and Hattie had bought some toys and gave them to the kids. I know maybe they expected to be paid for posing for pictures, but they were very cute. I've never seen that since then, kids like that along the highways. Well, we got some bad film here. We'll see what comes of it, hopefully. There's Chuck with sunglasses on. No, I bet it's Patrick with sunglasses on. Elton John in person. And there's David, taking the glasses from him. There's Susie, emoting. And there's Chuck with his perennial smile. They're arguing over the glasses now. Neither one will go, oh, Patrick's hitting David. And Glenn's coming to the rescue. Now they both have glasses. Now we're okay. They're dancing for something. Kicking their feet up. Sunglasses and a bow tie. And her fingers in the face. There's Joan. Is she pretty? No, they're all dancing. Chuck is really into it. There's Patrick, still with his bow tie. Well, this is...
It's hot.
Okay. This is at our new house out on 324 Kemar Circle. There's our dog, Pepper. And that's the sink with the beer bottles on it. I don't know what that's from. Little kiss there. Got Mommy to David, I think that was. You gotta have some action, kids. Can't take... There's Patrick gets a kiss, too. I don't think the kids ever had any fun. Okay, they got sunglasses back on. And by the front door of that wing wall we took out later. When we bought the piano, we had to get neighbors over. We had lifted it right over that wing wall because you had to bring it straight in. There's our old love seat we used to have. This is Sans carpeting. We had Patrick's not too happy with David for some reason. We had those braided rugs. You lift them up and there was nothing but dust and dirt under them. So we do have oak flooring underneath the carpeting here. We've carpeted it 3 times, I believe. And green and blue, and now we've got kind of a beige, or I forget what you color it. It was very nice. I know they're putting their boots on. Can't go outside without jackets. It doesn't bother them. They're trying them on anyhow. Oh, there they are out in the snow. Oh, they're out in the lake. They're going ice skating. This is down in Wayzata at the park down there. Dave's got an old cowboy jacket on. A little ice skating. Whoops. There's Glenn with a big face mask on. He can skate. And coast. Or that's Chuck. That's Glenn with the other mask. Yeah, that's Glenn. Yeah, almost fell, but he didn't. There's Patrick. Here comes Joan. She's on skates. There's Susie with the red parka on. Joan's dressed for skating with an overcoat. Okay. Patrick decides to crawl instead of... There it goes. There we are, skating on. Wayzata, the park down there along the old Highway 12. That was David there. With a big smile. There's Patrick, not so happy. There he's happy. He's hiding his face. There's Susie, Daddy. Here comes Glenn. Speed merchant. Whoop. Everything's on. Yep. There goes Glenn chasing Susie. He's going to get her. No, he's not going to get her. Oh, this looks like, what is this? Can't be confirmed. Are they both confirmed at the same time? Well, this is confirmation for Glenn and Susie. Over at St. Mary's of the Lake Church. And there's Grandma Chartier. There's Chucky. Grandpa Chartier. Little Patrick standing up back there. And Chuck with our old camera. Land camera. There's always a ham. Susie's shooing away. There's little Patrick. Little bump on his nose. Here we're on vacation out in Watertown, South Dakota. We stopped to have something to eat, I believe. We have borrowed Bill Balziger's pickup camper. The top, which he bought from our friend Stan Locker, who went to graduated from high school with Jeannie Berg. Jeannie Chartier Berg. There was Susie, there's Patrick. Excuse me. Looks like he's got an Oreo. On this trip, we're planning to meet... Are we meeting Conways this trip? Yeah, we're going to meet the Conways on this trip. They were leaving a couple days later. But in the meantime, Glenn got sick and Pierre, South Dakota. We went swimming in the backwater, had a flat tire, had to rent it by a jack. Truck didn't have one. And it was an adventure. Glenn ended up in the hospital for 2 nights, then he was fine. And we had it on for the Tetons. And there's Chuck, and got his drawstring was hanging down, so he was a little embarrassed. Hi, she says. Hi, she says. There, Glenn looks good. I think he got sick when he swam in that backwater of the Missouri, which was just silt. It was filthy, filthy. We didn't realize it till we were there. And this is Coulter Bay campground, kind of a confectionery area. I guess we took showers there for 50 cents or $1, whatever it was. We're all having, this is on Sunday morning, as I recall. There's the boys. There's Glenn, Patrick, David, Patrick, Chuck, Patty Conway with her cigarette, Jim Conway, Jimmy, and Pam Conway. There's Glenn coming out of the store, something in his mouth. And comes Joan, and Polly Conway, and David, and Susie, and Chuck. And there's David again. Here we're at Coulter Bay to go swimming. That's the Grand Teton in the background. And the water is cold, and it's all rocks there. No sand, just rocks. We discovered that what you should do is wear your tennis shoes when you go wading or swimming in there. I didn't get in too far. It's too cold. There's Chucky. There's Susie in the background. There's Susie and Polly. There they are. We had these as movies that we'd run them forward and backward. We see they're taking their shoes off. Then next thing we see them flying back to them. Old City Service T-shirts I bought for 10 cents a piece when I worked there. You see there is a little markup on T-shirts that you buy today for $5 and $10. Now we're going to go for horseback riding. There's David getting up. That's Patrick getting up, I believe. No, that's David. That's David. And he's got a smile. He's the cowboy. There's Patrick. I think they kind of cinched him in so he wouldn't fall off. But he's happy. He's riding a horse. They're helping Joan up, giving her a boost. We played that back and forward a few times too. Up and down, up and down. There's Chuck. Don't know that person. There's David. There's Hattie Conway in the background there. There's Susie. There's Polly, a little kind of shy. And there's Big Jim Conway on the right. There's Hattie turning around there. Glenn way up there on the right, I think, or Chuck. There's Glenn way over on the right there on the white horse. Stop and see if it works though. There's some moose. We're at Yellowstone National Park looking at the Great Old Faithful geyser, which is really something. What about this when I was in grade school and I always wanted to go to Yellowstone? You have to had to get married to get there. One time we drove there with my mother in October. If there was snow, you couldn't get through there unless you had chains, so we turned around and went back to Cody, Wyoming, and then up to Billings and around to the north side of the Yellowstone, going to Seattle. See my sister Joan and her husband John and son Jerry. And they're the Old Faithful. A spectacular phenomenon. Old Faithful used to go about every hour on the hour, practically, within a minute or two. And there were some earthquakes out there 25, 35 years ago. And since then, it'll vary from 55 minutes to an hour and a half, I believe. This is more of a long distance view here. I believe we watched it twice. I think this is probably one of the cities in South Dakota on our way to Rapid City, where the kids got to climb on this old train. There's Patrick trying to climb down by himself, and finally, in frustration, Joan will grab him and lift him off. You're taking too long. He wants to do it himself. That's how they learn. Who's that thin lady there, Joan? The big kids are still up there. That was Pat Conway and Susie. Well, there's a mountain goat. I don't know if I'd be that close to them, but I suppose they're fairly tame. They've been fed many times. The lady got something for him to eat, but keeps on backing up. I think there's Glenn in the background. Here we are on the road. All these tame wild burros. And they take anything you give them to eat, and one of them stuck his head in our car, and I mean, that head is big when it gets in your car. And there's David sucking his finger, and there's Patrick on top of a donkey. And Jim putting Jimmy on one. Didn't let Patrick sit down there by himself. And here comes Polly. There's David. He's getting a chance to do it too. And there's Susie. Somebody's feeding the dog because he wants to go forward. And there's the old faces. The Black Hills. Mount Rushmore. Washington, Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Lincoln. You gonna have some of this, Bill? There are some moose out there, so I decided I'm going to go out and check them out. It wasn't too smart a move, but I survived. Guess I got close enough and figured better get back. Well, Joan was yelling at me the whole time. There's Patrick. Well, here we're at our campground in Grand Teton. So this is probably out of sequence because the burros came later, I believe. All the same trip, though. Yeah, the kids liked this campground so much. They had their own fire pits and wood to chop, and then we decided we were going to move for some reason. Be closer to the lake. Kids weren't happy with it. And then we went to the new campsite, and there's Polly and Pam. They're washing dishes or something. Pam was married, divorced, never had any children. Polly's never been married, no children. Pat has 2 children. She's married to Doug McClung. Beautiful girls. One graduated from Marquette. One graduated from the University of Minnesota. Megan is married, lives in Milwaukee, and Mara, I believe, is in Nashville, Tennessee. They're out there knocking down dead branches for kindling wood. Here comes David with his supply of kindling wood for the fires. The campground over the back side there, that's for the campers and trailers, you know, the big rigs. We're in the individual tent type. I guess with the pickup camper, we could have qualified for that, but we want to be by our friends. And there's Jimmy. I don't know where we got these long sticks, but they did the job.
Didn't like us.
Huh?
Our neighbors didn't like us knocking down the branches.
Didn't they? They say something?
Mm-hmm.
I never heard that. They're dead. There's the boys. They got a little fireplace going. That's Jim's car in the back, and I think the pickup camper is to the right. Of course, Jim had air conditioning in the car, so later on the way to Rapid City, he thought, well, maybe it was so hot, I thought maybe one of our kids would like to ride up there. So Chuck went up there, and then it was so cold in there, he threw up. We felt bad about that. But the Conways are such nice people. There's Susie and Polly helping do the dishes, and Pat. Pat's the one with the 2 beautiful daughters. Susie has a beautiful daughter, Emily. There's David and Glenn. Glenn's, I don't think they're roasting marshmallows, just burning fire. Huh? What? I think it's David. Joan, yeah, I guess that is Patrick. That's Patrick and Glenn. Well, pal. Patty Conway with her cigarette. There's some baseball pictures of Glenn in the Little League. Not too many. That's Glenn running out there. Glenn's number 13. They had a pretty good team. I think they won probably half their games, or maybe more. They're up to bat now. They're doing something right. What? I don't know if that'll. Joan was saying maybe if I have some running conversation, the music will be subdued or eliminated. We'll see. Well, Glenn always would be very close to the plate and crouch down, and he was able to get a lot of walks. A lot of times he'd kind of walk or trot down to first base after a walk, and then he'd zip fast over to second base and steal the base before they knew what was going on. Done that almost every game. There he's up to bat now. You see his crouch, kind of a small and low strike zone. There he goes his walk. Good for you, Glenn. This isn't the place we went to when his first major league game. There he goes. His first there you go. He's going for third. You heading for home? Let's see. Hard to tell. His first major league game when he had a uniform and all that, a big deal. And we all went over to the game, and Glenn was there ahead of us. The coach or somebody gave him a ride. So we get over there and in the car, as we're just pulling in, David says, "Mom, is Glenn in the dig up?" We thought that was pretty clever for let's see, Glenn was 12, it'd be 63. David was about 4 going on 5, something like that. Maybe he was 5. Looks like Glenn up to bat again. They're so afraid they're going to hit him, some of these pitchers. They can't get it down in the strike zone. He had a good glove, too. He could throw a good arm. And here comes another walk. They were close to the plate. He's up at bat there. This must be after the game. They go get their treats, whatever they get. Candy bar, or Cheerio, or popsicle, or whatever. So they all got a reward. Win or lose, you got a reward. There's the coach right there on the right. I don't remember his name. He's a nice guy. There's the dig up. I don't know who this is with bags on them. Say New Orleans Saints fans. Now this, I believe, is a Chuck Boline's Little League. They had shirts and hats, but no uniforms, per se. I think Chuck plays first base. There's Patrick. He got a treat. There's Joan. There's our 59 Plymouth. So this has got to be 61 or maybe 62. So we moved out there in 61. I can't recall where this field is. Can you, Joan? It was over on that park, over on Oberlin Park? This may be Oberlin Park.
Yeah, I think so.
There's Chuck. There he is, all smiles, up the bat. Looks like Harmon Kilber ready to hit that ball. Whoop. Whoop. Let her go. You're out. Rats. Here we are down in Lake Washington, kind of north of Mankato. There's Susie. I had a good friend that I worked with at City Service. He was a consignee in Rochester, and he formed a business, B&H Equipment Company, with another City Service maintenance man. So Wally Beachside was the friend, and then Gene Hartman was the maintenance man, and they had their own company. And Wally and his mother, Wally was a bachelor, and his mother owned this cabin on Lake Washington. So he invited us down for the weekend with the kids and the dog, if you can imagine. Later, he did marry a widow with 3 daughters, and they were married several years, and then Wally had a massive heart attack and died at an early age. It was a shame. Of course, he was a smoker, like a lot of people were back then. So this is probably 1962 or something in that area, by the looks of things and by the movies. And there's Wally Beachside right there. Just the neatest guy. His brother was a vice president of Kayot Corporation. That's a Kayot pontoon boat, and the Kayot, the little personal craft there. So I'm sure he got a good deal through his brother. Or maybe his brother bought him for his mother for free. I don't know. You want to have some more cheese?
I just had I'm gonna make the salad.
The kids in the water. Kids love water. There's Joan and Susie. I don't know who's in the background there in the water. Probably Chuck. There's Patrick showing you a clam or something. There's our dog Pepper. He must have gotten wet too. He's a good little dog. We got him from Nick Popo. And there's Mrs. Beachside on the right, and the other lady, a couple that invited over, and I don't recall their names. There's Wally. He took us out for a nice ride after dinner out on the lake. And there's Susie. Saw the couple had a daughter, and Susie and she were buddies. There's Chuck. There's Patrick. There's this other gentleman. Just had a nice ride, nice evening ride. There's Pepper. There's Joan. There's Wally. There's Techie. It was easier sitting back here, of course. What?
The music is too.
Yeah. Joan doesn't like the background music. Well, that was put in by Mr. Johnson down when I put the film on from the 8mm to the video. And just did the background music. There's Chuck caught a fish. Look at that. There's Susie on a swing. Here we're out at the ocean, Santa Barbara. I know because we'll see a picture of one of the WA girls right there. I don't know why we didn't take more pictures, or if we did, they didn't turn out. Susie and Patrick and one of the WA girls. Now the next thing here, we're down all the way down to San Diego at SeaWorld. Amazing what they get these porpoise to do. Jump over that, jump through hoops, go 3 at a time. Wow, can they go? Look at that. All for a reward of a little fish. Going through the fire hoop. They seemed to whistle or something, and the fish knew what to do. Now I think we're at Disneyland. We're going through Adventureland or something. There's a falls, and there's animals on the island. And we're on some kind of a boat, river boat of some type. There's a huge ship you can go on and walk around on. There's David. There's Chuck, Susie, and Glenn, and Patrick down there, and there's Joan. That was a beautiful stern wheeler there. Had a Dixieland band playing music on it. And I think this is Huckleberry Finland or what it was. It says I don't know if it says restroom or store. Or, anyhow, we walked through all this. It was really neat what they've done. It's fun for the kids, fun for the adults. Here we're in Tomorrowland. The kids are riding cars. You want to do some talking? There comes, who is that? Who is that now? I can't, it's so bumpy, I can't tell. Here comes, looks like Chuck and Glenn riding together. There's Susie and Joan and Patrick. You want to get it?
Hello. Hi.
Here's David.
When did I call? Just a little bit ago.
This is all at Disneyland.
Yeah, just about 15, 20 minutes ago.
Oh, there's Hazel and Clem Alexander. And there we are. We got the 62 Pontiac. So this has got to be 1964. There's Paul Skinner, our former neighbor, lived across the street from us in Kenmare Circle. He now lives in Arizona, and he's the head. He's the head. What do you call him? Of all the at. Here we're playing They're playing football in our backyard. I think that might be Jimmy Graven.
Oh, heavens no. He wants to get into Gustavus.
That's Chucky going running, and oh, I'm going to tackle him. Well, here we're up at Many Point Boy Scout Camp. The same Paul Skinner lives in Mesa, Arizona, works for Mountain Shadows as the head bellman at Mountain Shadows, which is a Marriott hotel. This is Many Point. There's Glenn, and somebody opened the door here. Glenn sitting outside the tent. I recall this young man, but I don't remember his name. The other one. Oh, here comes a baseball game. There's Chuck.
Sure was good.
Getting bigger now, and he's. I don't know if this is American Legion or what they call it. But, Chuck has got a full uniform now, and he's playing first base, I believe.
He must be busy
Already he was getting to be a big boy.
all that time.
Looking for that fly ball in the air. Couldn't capture it very well.
Yeah, just so that he has
A lot of fun watching the kids. I think this is Oberlin Park, about a mile away from here.
But when I know how many. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Who's that? Long Island. Mary Ramsey, can't you open it? Happy Christmas card, huh?
Two.
And just to me? Or maybe she made a mistake. I thought it was to both of us.
Just you.
Oh. Yeah, it looks like Oberlin Park with a raised hill there. And our friends, the Gollettes, lived across the street from there. One of the houses over there. Nice rambler when they were. Now they live in Arizona. They also have a place out on a lake to here. There goes Joan in the car. There comes Dad with Chuck. Look at Chuck's as big as his dad. Oh, man, I didn't have much hair even then. It's fun to have the kids involved in sports. Get a touch of everything. Decide what they liked, what they didn't like. I think they liked all of them. Excelled at some, were okay in others. Like everybody. I may be the best spinner in the world. Here comes Chuck. Here's the other team there, going to get their treats. There's Patrick. Jumping in the water. Let's see where we are now. There's Daddy. Oh, we're out at Lake Minnetonka, Big Island. He had a pontoon boat that Don Heiskamp built and owned, and we fished off it up in the Rainy Lake, and we borrowed it from him for a year, for the whole summer, and had a trailer, so we'd come home and we'd just haul that thing out to Spring Park, and Joan would have food all ready, and there's Jimmy Graven, and we'd start cooking hot dogs and hamburgers on the way out to Big Island. Look at you, you're a long way from the island, and it's still very shallow. And the kids just have a ball. They just play on that water, jump on and off that log, and then come in, get up there, and have something to eat. Splash. Jimmy is just a natural athlete. Everything he did came easy, just kind of like his dad. Jimmy's dad was from Hutchinson, and he was the quarterback and played on an undefeated high school football team in '43. I think they were undefeated and unscored upon. And Jim became the football coach at Wayzata and then the athletic director. And Jimmy eventually, there's Chris and Becky Graven, and there's Jim. There's Glenn. There's Joan. And there's Joan Graven. I think Gwen had her mother, Mrs. Dayton, on there at the time, too. There's Chucky. There's David. I think Lonnie Holmgren. I think they're going their first day to school. So their buddies there. And the school bus is out there waiting for them. That's one of the other neighbor boys, neighbor girl. Well, we're already to winter. How time flies. I think we're skating maybe in our backyard. I poured some kind of a rink. Wasn't real good. But if you can't skate very far, very fast, it was adequate. Yeah, I can see the picnic bench back there that we had for years. And then we had so that's what I was out there trying to pour. It kind of had steps on it. It wasn't very smooth. I think that's Glenn. No, that's David. That's Patrick on his knees over there. Lighting wasn't too good. I think the snow made the aperture close up so the people didn't look too clear, which is too bad. But now the video cameras are so much better. It's just unbelievable. But we did what we could with what we had. Yeah, that's our backyard. I don't know who's skating around there. That might be Susie. David and Patrick. Yeah, that's David and Patrick. I don't know if the other boys are there or not. A little crawling there. They look like David. And that looks like Patrick. Chucky. Well, here comes Patrick on a bicycle with training wheels. Right in Kenmar Circle. You see the trees aren't very big there, and they're huge now. 30 years later, of course. There, cute boy, good-looking kid, always smiling. There he goes. Not too much traffic in Kenmar Circle. Now we have new curbs and gutters and new street. Our house with the original green shutters. Later we painted them black. Painted them blue. There's Grant, the baseball player. The old Teamsters team. Gotta have some action. Throw the ball. Okay. Boom. Good athlete. There's our 62 Pontiac, so it's got to be 64 or 65. And we bought that in 64 from City Service. There's David with Glenn and Patrick. Burschel's house way in the background. No, very little for trees back then. Now they're everywhere. There's Jimmy Graven. There's David. Patrick's the umpire. Ball 3 or strike 3. Patrick's turn to bat, I guess. And here's Jimmy's the catcher. Jimmy Graven. Good athlete. He became the quarterback on the Wayzata football team. Then he was captain on the Duluth, Minnesota, University of Minnesota, Duluth hockey team. A very successful vice president of a packaging company. And Twin Cities has a lovely home. There's old Pepper. There's Grandma Chartier. You know, that's our car. It looks like we're ready to go on our vacation to go to the Tetons. There's Glenn giving Grandma a kiss. And Ginger a kiss. And there's Chuck a kiss. And Susie gives her a kiss. There's Grandpa. There's David on the ground. Yeah, we had it all packed. Board that deal on the top for Uncle Wayne. And had our tent and everything in it. There's David, Daddy in the background. And Susie. Oh, that's Glenn. There's Joan. We had some great vacations. When I changed jobs from city service to Super America, I could have taken time off, but I thought, well, I can double up with the money. I have all this money, so we didn't take a vacation in '66, which was probably a mistake. I mean, looking back at it. The kids loved their vacations. From the Tetons to Expo 67 to California to Seattle to Banff, Lake Louise. We're eating someplace. I think we stopped at a campground up in Canada. We got on it was the Queens Highway then, I believe. At a nice campground, and it was nice weather. Patrick's got a pail on his rear end. Why, I don't know. They're throwing things at him. Who knows what kids will do? They have fun. We're still at the campground. I'm shirtless because it's so nice out. I'm going to sit down in one of our folding chairs and finally relax. And there we're eating now. You know, you kind of forget all these wonderful times. And I think they were great for us and for the kids. There's our tent, which we borrowed from some friends of ours. It was about a 12 by 12 big tent. And we became very adept at putting it down, putting it up, and taking it back down, packing it, folding it up, packing it up on the rooftop carrier. There's Patrick with the red hat. I think he'd get the red hat with the tassels on it. The other boys have the white cowboy hats. If Chuck is showing us he caught a frog maybe, or a toad. I guess. Oh, we're going horseback riding. Up in Banff, as I recall. Kind of north out of Banff a little ways. There's Susie. And Glenn. There's Chucky. And there's David. And this cowboy deal. There's Patrick with the red hat down here in the lower left. I don't know if he got to go or not. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. He got on a horse too. That's big potatoes when you're on vacation. You get to go horseback riding. Pretty neat. And there they go. I don't know if I'm on the horse going with him, taking a ride. Somebody's taking the picture. Going off in the trees, into the wilderness. Takacaw Falls. I believe this is the tallest falls in North America. It is quite a sight, and you park a long ways away and you start walking toward it, and you get about a quarter of a mile away, and you can feel the water, the overspray, hitting you with a fine mist. Really neat. I'd like to see it again someday. We've been back up in those areas, but I haven't seen Takacaw again. So this has got to be 64, I'm thinking. I think 65 we came back there. Maybe it is 65. No, I think it's 64. 65, I think we had a tent trailer. Now we're at my sister Joan Tritz, and her husband John lived there. And they had a nice home. Had a creek running through the backyard, right across the back property line and down the side. It was really a neat layout. Never know why they sold that. They decided to come back to Minnesota. Now this is, I believe, the Space Needle. June went with us. We down to Space Needle, and then there's Susie. So she's probably 10 or 11. Ken going on 11. This is where they had a World's Fair in Seattle, and that Space Needle was part of that. Then they had a monorail going into Seattle, so we decided, well, let's take the monorail. Well, we did that. There's the monorail track, I believe. We get on there, and all of a sudden we say, well, where's Susie? If she told Chuck, I'm going to go to the bathroom, you tell everybody. Well, he didn't tell anybody. So we get on the monitor, so June and Joan jumped back on it, went back and got her, came back down. She was smart. She just stayed there. Now we're at Dave and Joey Collis's home out in California. Had a U-shaped house, was very nice. Had a swimming pool in the area of the U, inside the U. And he had 2 horses, and so the kids got to ride the horses. 5 acres out there. Pretty neat. Shingle Creek, California, I think it was called, which is where Studebaker Corporation was formed. They used to make wheelbarrows for the 49ers, the miners, the gold miners, and then that blossomed into from wheelbarrows to wagons to cars. I didn't remember that. I even got to ride the horse too. Didn't recall that. Had a nice stay there for a few days. I think we even went to State Park, and then we went up to the border of California and Nevada, and had the kids had a place where they could have fun, and we went out for dinner. Joey and Dave and Joan and I. As I recall, he ate octopus and shark. I thought, well, of course, I'm not much of a fish eater anyhow, but here's the Golden Gate Bridge. Everybody has to see that. It is spectacular. But in addition to the Golden Gate, there's the Oakland Bay Bridge, which is about 9 miles long, and two decks, and it's an amazing engineering feat, just that it was constructed. So we went over that too. And we went down to Chinatown in San Francisco. Chuck enjoyed that part. This look like mountain goats or sheep somewhere out west. Oh yeah, this is Banff. We're riding up to the top. You can see the town down below. Looks like Joan and somebody with her. I don't know who it is. Looks like Chucky. There's Banff down there, down in the valley. Beautiful country up there. Somebody's feeding the little animals, the little rodents. And there's David. A great campground up there. I've been back since, and the campground, which we thought was out in the middle of nowhere, now is inside the city. And Joe and I drove up there, and here's this young moose, about 6.5 feet tall, just standing there looking at us. This looks like it might be Chuck and David. Let's see if they get closer we can tell. Oh, it's Glenn and Chuck. That was Chuck that was feeding the animal. You could tell by the jacket. And here comes Susie and Patrick, I believe. We'll see momentarily, maybe. Susie's waving. Yeah, it looks like Patrick. Yeah, it is. They're helping him off, fortunately. Kids are fun. It's just wonderful to have them and watch them grow and share things with them, times with them. Wonderful memories. What this is, I don't know. Oh, I know. We're going up to that's Lake Louise, and that's just a picturesque view of. We're doing scenery again, of course. People were canoeing out on it, and we decided to take Don Olson, a friend of mine from City Service, said, "You've got to take the hike up to the tea house, 2.25 miles." Well, 2.25 miles doesn't seem like much, except it's all uphill, and it's warm down there, like 80, 82, 85 degrees. And you start hiking up 2.25 miles. It's cold up there. And there's a little lake up there. And nice little cabin structure that we had a tuna fish sandwich there or something up there anyhow. And he headed back down. Well, Glenn decided to run back down. He ran back down. And then by the time we got to California, he wasn't feeling good for some reason. Ended up calling a doctor. Came right to the Holiday Inn right by the airport where we stayed. No, it is beautiful country. Of course, on the way up, Patrick and David, carry me, Daddy, carry me, Daddy. No, I can hardly make it myself. This is a little lake up, I don't know what you call a lake up in the middle of a mountain, but it was beautiful. It was worth the walk. There's feeding little animals in it. And there we are. Some of these pictures do not have enough light, which is a shame, but like I said before, the video cameras today are so far superior to the old 8mm cameras. But this is where we came back next year with the Conways, and Jim and Jimmy Conway and Chuck and Glenn and myself climbed Mount Rundle. We hired this German fellow. There we are. This is at 324 Kenmar Circle. There's Grandma and Grandpa. There's Chuck. It's got to be Christmas time. There's Susie. You can see the tree on the left with the icicles. We used to put them on every year like such a painstaking job. I don't know what he's got on his back. Looks like... Is there a round table? We still have that table. And Susie got a hairdryer. Grandpa and Grandma. And Patrick. There's David on the floor. Really, his bar lights that see hiding their eyes because it's so bright. You can hardly take it. That's why they're blocking their eyes. I don't blame them. There's Grandma. There's Susie. Patrick. Somebody got a blackboard for Christmas. And there's Ginger on the floor. It's a Christmas stocking. There's Glenn. I don't know if that's a... There's Susie. I don't know if that's a dartboard or what he has there. Somebody got some kind of a small desk. Don't have no idea where that is anymore. Some trucks. Got to have toys. The road grader. Well, that's Chuck again. And Pepper up there trying to make friends. Give him a kiss. Good old Pepper. Oh, looks like Chuck got new ice skates. Wow. Yeah, there's a desk there. Now that's Christine Berg. Ron and Jean Berg's daughter. Well, of course, Jean is Joan's sister. And there's Patty Berg, of all things. I don't even remember them being at our house way back then. There's Patty, there's Chuck. Patty and Ron, there's Susie. There's Jeannie and Grandma. No, some mitten for somebody. There's Christine, what a pretty little girl. Well, she's the mother of several kids. Here's a big snow pile out in our backyard. Here's our old deck with there's our... You walk up and you can sit on the clothes poles. I mean, it was really piled up back. It drifted in from the field across. There's Patrick and the boys. They just dug holes in there. That's Glenn, I believe. He had one of my old hats. You know how high that is. There's David. There he goes. They were having fun out there. He even kind of had a ski place. There's David back in a little alcove. That was Jimmy. There's Patrick. Here comes Pepper running across the snow. There's our house from the back. There's Patrick. He's down there now. There's David. And Glenn in the red. There's David. And that's Chucky in that blue jacket. Wish he had turned out better, but can't do much about that. Amateur photographer. The kids have fun no matter what the weather. Then they come in and where it's nice and warm, have a nice meal with Mama, Dad. I was still with city service at this time back in the early 60s. So I may have been out of town. No, I was taking those. So here we are at George and Laurel Collis's pool in their backyard. The pool was 50 feet across. It was a cone with straight sides and then taper at the bottom, just like a funnel. And I think it was probably 12, 15 feet deep in the middle at the bottom. There's George walking away there. Beautiful place. He wanted a pool. Yeah, it's pool companies. They said, yeah, we'll put it in the front yard. No, I don't want it in the front yard. I want it in the backyard. We can't do it, they said. There's George. Oh, he was a diver with me. He talked me into going off the diving team, too. And did the dashes also on swimming team. There he goes diving into the pool right from his roof. He also had 2 plexiglass windows because it was a walkout basement, and you'd walk to the side of the pool. There went Susie down. I think that's Laurel. It's one of their boys. There comes Chuck up to the window, I think, of the pool. Yeah. So they had this plexiglass windows you could look at. You could look underwater. That's where I'm taking the pictures from. And they'd have neighborhood parties once in a while, the adults, and George would climb up the roof and dive in, and then some of the women had a lot of gumption. They'd had a few drinks, and they'd want to go in the pool that way too, and they'd climb up the roof. But they would dive in, they would jump in. And George would get his men friends down and look in the window, and as the women jumped in, their bras went right off of their suits. So, kind of X-rated. There's Susie underwater, coming towards the camera. Excuse me. There's David getting the water. We just had a ball the whole afternoon, and Laurel fed us hot dogs, hamburgers, beans, whatever, I don't know. It was very nice of them to invite us out. I believe they're living in... There comes Susie again. George has built another home down in Mexico. Anyhow, this pool was put on the back, but his brother, Dave, was a civil engineer, vice president of Aerojet, and so he designed it, and he took it for the Planning Commission City Council and sold them. There's Susie. Sold them the fact that it was feasible and it was safe and so forth and so on. They built this great big concrete pier. There's David. Concrete pier, which supported the center of the pool. And he had turnbuckles around it to hold it together. It was an amazing piece of engineering. And it worked. A lot of water in there. There we are. George and Laurel Collis's pool. There's David by the side of the pool. There's Patrick in a boat with webbing in the bottom. He hold you in there. He didn't know how to swim yet, so that looked like Glenn coming down. I think he's the only one that dare go down head first. There's Susie. Holding your nose. Patrick, very photogenic. There's Glenn and Sue. That's Glenn. With the mask on. Where is this? Looks like we're back in Yellowstone Park. I don't know how these transitions go. No, we're up in Banff Lake, Louise. We're going to Emerald Lake. We're with the Conways. There's Jimmy. There's Patrick. This is twins jacket. There's Pat. The blonde. Yeah, I got these kind of interspersed, these films. How that happened, I have no idea. There's Chuck. And Patrick. Emerald Lake. Here's August 28th, and we're up at the ice fields. We're between Banff and Jasper. And we were going to go up to Jasper. Conway said they didn't want to go any farther with the snow. So we turned around, went back to Banff, where our tent canopy or a canopy that we had to cook under had collapsed. Some Canadian neighbors from Regina come over and picked it up for us while we were gone. They were very nice. And meantime, it was cold. So I had everybody stay in the car, and I took everything down and packed it, and away we went to Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is just outside of Calgary. It was like Happy Hollow Campground or something like that. And the kids are riding in cars, having a ball. Yeah, Glenn and Chuck. What a blast, huh? And here's a train the kids rode on. East Patrick did, and David, I think. I don't know if the big kids did. Yeah, there's Patrick. In the ground trampolines. That's Jimmy here and Pat to the left, and that was Chuck to the back there. Yeah, I think that's Glenn with the striped shirt. There's Susie way over there. Jumping up and down. That's Chuck again. Glenn, some more car racing. And that's Jimmy. Jimmy Conway. Here comes Pat Conway. Jimmy trying to pass. Here comes Susie trying to catch up. But they made her make the wide turns. You couldn't cut them off at the pass. She's having fun. There's a wide turn she had to make. Going like a lickety-split there. Now she's ahead of Pat. Now we're in real small cars. There's David and Patrick can ride these. Patrick's car wouldn't go very fast, which was okay, I guess. At least he was steering it and driving it. There's a little river going right alongside the campground. It was a neat place, and they had trail rides. So I think the big kids went on that. Here's Polly, and Chuck. He looks like he's got, and Susie. And there's Pat. There's Jimmy. There's Glenn. Jimmy, Glenn. He's got a twins jacket too, and there's Pat up there. And here we are driving along, going to go through a tunnel. Spectacular views up there. They had signs up there in Canada telling you which mountain was which. From the road, it would point up to it. There's kids throwing rocks. There's Patrick. There's Glenn. There's Jim Conway. I think. I'm gonna figure out where this is. I think it's. I think we stayed in St. Mary's Campground in Glacier Park, and this is, I think, the southeastern entrance to Glacier Park. Beautiful place. Indoors was all beams and such, and it was showed it during the construction. Indians standing around watching it. The contractor was from Minneapolis. Name that's no longer a contractor. There's a moose or something down there. Had to take a picture of that. Come the kids. I think what here is groundhogs. Not positive about that. They're all out in the field looking in the holes. I don't know why else they'd be out there. Well, it's somewhere in the Badlands of North Dakota. Here, reenacting a scene of 1956 when we went out to California. Chuck was a year and a half, or maybe 18 months. Now, this is like, what year was this, Joan? 64? So it's 9 and a half or so. And Susie's 11, something like that. Oh, here we are. The kids are skating on the swamp behind Laven's. Somebody fell down, another fall. That's Patrick and left, David, there comes Glenn, and around in circles. I saw Jimmy Graven there. That's him way in the background on the ground. The one in the red, I don't know if that's Susie. That's Dale. I'm going to come real fast and almost fall. No, caught myself. Yeah, that's David. No, that's Chuck in the red. That's David in the lighter coat. There's Jimmy Graven, red coat. There's Patrick. Got to show off a little. We had to take our skates down there and put them on, and take them out and put our shoes back on. That's cold. But it was fun going down there with the kids. Oops. Just lucky they didn't hit their heads. I think we saw a deer out there. Somebody had seen one. Kids should be in the Follies. They're so good. Here comes Chucky. There's Glenn. Just the guys. No Susie this time. There's Patrick. Whoops. There's Glenn. There's Chuck. There's Chuck again. Sniffing. There's David. My favorite pose. Here comes Jimmy Graven. Good looking guy. End up about 6'3". Big kid. Here we're camping someplace, and got the coffee pot on. Got the stove. The tent trailer. Yeah, maroon sweatshirts. Well, we borrowed Leo Murphy's tent trailer. We went up to Banff, Lake Louise with the Conways. So this may be the next year probably up in North Dakota now. The first night out or first morning out. That's where David got sick. We took him down to the hospital and waited for a while, and finally got to see a doctor. He was fine. So it was, you got to have some of those things happen. There's Joan, relaxing, and Susie, about her old lawn chairs. There's Chuck. And David. They both grew up to be big guys. And we get a hug from Patrick. Good old days, huh? There's Joan and David. A little togetherness. There's David. That's Jimmy. I see Conway's had a trailer that they rented when we went up to Banff. Get some good close-ups. There's a lift going up the mountain.
Hi, bud. Yeah, he is.
There's
What's tomorrow? Oh, yeah.
no Central. Second Tuesday. Second Tuesday.
Just a minute.
Little bud, you can talk. You have to move. Hello. Hi. Yeah. Why? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Here they are going up on top of the mountain. I'm probably down below waiting for them. They're having fun feeding the squirrels, and we've all got maroon sweatshirts on, so we couldn't get lost from one another.
Yeah, they're open at least by.
There's Dad, David,
You won't have a problem there. Okay. Well, thanks.
and Glenn, and
Okay, bye.
some wild animals. What do you want?
Go ahead.
What do you want?
Want to meet us at the pancake house for breakfast? They're going in for some shop or something.
Tomorrow morning?
Yeah. I have to work.
Here we are looking at scenery again.
Tunnel Mountain.
Tunnel Mountain. There's where the train comes,
West of Banff.
goes in and comes out.
West of Banff and British Columbia.
North of Banff,
West of Banff.
west of Banff. This is where Chucky fell down and cut his knee.
He was in his winter.
He fell down just a little ways, but it was on rocks. And we had to take him to the doctor, and they put a Band-Aid. Did they stitch?
Yeah,
They stitched him up a little bit, and there goes the train. That was fun watching. Here we are eating. Somewhere. And now we're swimming again. I think we're out of sequence a little bit.
A lot of them are out of sequence. You don't know why.
They could be rearranged all over again.
This is camp.
This is Boy Scout camp. Glenn was at the Boy Scout camp. He won the award for Best Scout, I believe. Best Sport. This was up at Itasca, I believe, and we stayed up there. We camped up there.
The kids had to put a demonstration on, then they fed us beans or something.
It was a fun few days. We went driving it back to our camp,
Wrong turn.
at night, and we took a wrong turn and ended up on some detour and had quite an exciting trip back to our tent.
We got back and there was a family of raccoons.
When we got back, there was a family of raccoons eating,
Going through the campground.
going through the campground.
Going to the garbage can.
So it was an exciting day. And here they are working on their canoeing
Trying to swamp each other.
canoeing techniques, trying to swamp each other, and looks like some of them are getting swamped,
Not very deep.
but it's only waist deep water, so it can't be too can't be. There's Glenn. They must be having some kind of race, relay, or they're bringing something back up. Here's the school bus bringing the troops back. They look a little bit weary, like a little bit tired. They're probably glad to get home. That was the old Ogno Lutheran Church. Is that Patty? Patty Berg. Oh, look at her. Oh, she's barely walking. Cute little Patty. They're playing Ring Around the Rosie. Oh, fall down. I don't know who the other kids are. There's Ron, David, Chris, Pepper in the background, Patrick, Patty, Chris, her baby sister. There's Pete and Chris. We must have had some kind of a picnic or party. There's Grandma and Jeanette and Jeannie and myself. Look at how thin we are. And a little bit younger looking. And there's Ginger and Pepper, the two dogs. Ginger was master of the whole house and yard and neighborhood. She'd bark at anybody.